908 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I hope that you are doing well. Thinking of everybody in Hendersonville and Madison, Gallatin right now. Tornadoes, crazy over the weekend. Absolutely insane. And I just want to start off the show by once again giving a huge shout out to Matt Murphy and Ken Weaver for their coverage over the weekend. They were fantastic. Fantastic. And my wife just sent me a text saying, make sure those guys know how safe we felt because we were listening to their coverage. And I couldn't echo that statement enough. Having those guys on the air during that storm was fantastic. And I know that they did a huge service to the community. And we're really appreciative of that. Just not even like radio Chris, but just Dad Chris listening to the coverage. So appreciative of them being on the air, covering that storm. It was unbelievable. They're saying 13 tornadoes touched down in Tennessee. That's the Storm Prediction Center's preliminary report. 13.
Golly.
Tennessee Emergency Management Agency flash report reveals the counties impacted by the tornadoes and severe weather on Saturday. Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Gibson, Montgomery, Robertson, Stewart, Sumner, Trousdale, Weakley, Wilson. I mean, it was chaos out there for a bit. And as a guy that, kind of follows this stuff, I keep an eye on it. When the sirens started going off in Murfreesboro, it was hectic. It's stressful. But having those guys on the air and having my radio cranked up and being able to know when the all clear was there, it was helpful. And we appreciate them for that. We really do. Just on like a person level, not on a radio guy level. Shout out to Matt and Ken and Leviticus for being here and covering that. I think that the power of local radio gets lost until situations like that happen. Until Matt Murphy's on the air and he's getting calls from people on the ground that are explaining what is happening in real time. There's something so real about that and quick and up to the minute, and those guys did a fantastic job. So I want to say thank you to them. If you want to know how you can help with this tornado recovery, tornado, cleanup, the rebuilding process, we have links on our Facebook page, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. We have retweeted links on our Twitter account at 99.7 WTN, and we suggest that you go there and you jump in and you help where you can. That's one of the cool things about this state. Everybody is ready to help. Of course, though, not everybody is there to help. There are going to be people there that are there to capitalize. And TEMA warns against, not hiring licensed contractors. They warn that you shouldn't pay the total amount before the work is complete. And you should take care and be extra cautious when it comes to scammers in the events of these situations. Because they're out there. They look for the most vulnerable. And I don't know how more vulnerable you can be than if you lost the roof to your house 2 weeks before Christmas. So I think that it's good to exercise caution and make sure that you're only dealing with licensed contractors. You're not paying that total amount before the work is done. And you're very, very cautious on who you're doing business with. So I just wanted to put that out there. There are going to be those bad actors in the crowd that are going to want to capitalize on this. So I just wanted to warn everybody as you're going through the cleanup, as you're trying to rebuild, be wary if these people don't have, a website, reputable reviews, if they don't have their licenses, if they can't provide those, be cautious. Please be cautious. Because the last thing you want to do is be taken advantage of, again, when you're in a very vulnerable state. So I just wanted to warn people against that and look out for that. Look out for your family. Look out for your friends. If you know somebody that's elderly that could be taken advantage of, help them out. Jump in. Because I think that this storm was bad enough. You don't need to be hit twice and then duped by a fake contractor. And these people pop up every time a storm like this happens. Every single time. But I mean, they had an EF3 hit Clarksville. Insane. 150 mile per hour winds. Tornado had a width of 600 yards.
Wow.
Like, that's crazy.
It's terrifying.
We all saw the videos. We've seen the damage. There was an F2 in Madison, Hendersonville, Gallatin. Crazy. So my prayers go out to everybody that are dealing with that are in the cleanup process. We're here. We're thinking of you, and we'll always be here when those storms hit. And I think we proved that on Saturday. Murphy, I mean, I am so impressed with his coverage of that. He was outstanding. And to be so calm and cool and collected. And just some inside baseball on how hard it is when these storms are happening in real time. You're broadcasting live on the air, so he's talking as he's trying to search for information. And I got to be honest with you, it's hard. It's hard to stay up to the minute. And we're so lucky to have Ken Weaver in here as well. These guys are in the weeds on the radars. They're watching, not only are they watching the news, they're watching Twitter, they're manning the phones, they're on the super text line, and they're broadcasting at the same time. That is a lot to do. And it's a service to the community, and they were proud to do it, and they did it so well. So I just wanted to say congratulations to those guys. You know, I was so impressed with them. That work, I guarantee that the positive impact from that, it's not understated to the people in those communities. You know, and when Tim Jones is calling in on while Matt's broadcasting live and his cell phone's dropping out, it kind of rings home how crazy the situation is, because cell service is interrupted, power is interrupted, and these guys are probably some of the only connection to what's going on for people in these communities. So I cannot sing their praises enough about the job that they did. I'm so proud to be on this team where I have guys like Matt and Ken in this building, and Dan and Brian. These guys always jump in. And as somebody that was a listener of this radio station before I got to work here, I knew I could always turn to 99.7 when something was happening, and they prove it time and time again. So I just wanted to start the show by saying congratulations to those guys, and I don't want to, I guess maybe congratulations isn't the right word, but just like, I don't know how else to sing their praises. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a tough job to deal with, but they executed, and I couldn't think of two better guys to do it than those two.
Yeah, hats off. Incredible.
Yeah, incredible. That's probably the better way. Hats off to those guys, because they were in the, you know, shoot, Ken had to break up his broadcast to go to his safe space. You know, it was amazing. It was amazing. So I couldn't be more impressed with them. I couldn't be more proud to be on their team. I couldn't be more proud to be on this team at 99.7. And once again, radio is there, and they're covering it in real time. It was so cool. It was so cool to watch these guys handle that with such poise and professionalism. When you don't really know what's going on, information is changing by the second. And they handled it so well. Now, if you want to jump in, you want to help, again, on our Facebook page, 99.7 WTN, our Twitter page, 99.7 WTN, you can find those links to jump in and help. They are looking for volunteers. They got started bright and early this morning, and it's going to be a long cleanup. It really will. It really will. And I'm just thinking of those people that are, you know, 2 weeks out to Christmas, and they've lost everything. So now's the time where we got to pull together and really step up even more for these communities. And, you know, we'll be here helping lead the charge, and we want to help you find out how to get involved. And again, hop on our Facebook page, hop on our Twitter page. Tim Jones is on line one in Hendersonville, Sumner County Commissioner. What's up, Tim?
Hey, Chris. I just wanted to thank you guys for being there for us that night. We had lost power and we had the computer on trying to catch the TV. Then we lost the Xfinity feed from that. our cell phones were dropping in and out because the systems were just overpowered. So sometimes you could get a text out, but calls wouldn't go out. So I went and found our radio, found some batteries, and tuned into you guys, and y'all were there nonstop. And that's where I heard Matt Murphy asking for anybody that could call in from Hendersonville. It was still quite a while before I could use my phone and call out until after the storm went by. But you guys were a vital part of us getting through all that because we didn't know when shelter-in-place orders were over.
Yep.
We were having to depend on other people to tell us via phones, and the phones weren't working. So you guys were very, very integral in us getting through that and knowing when it was safe and everything.
Well, and I also want to say thanks to you. I mean, I'm listening to the storm coverage like everybody else, and you're there on the ground giving us real-time reports of what's happening before the news coverage is there, before police are on the scene. You're there explaining what's happening, and your cell phone was dropping out at times because of the spotty coverage. And I just want to say thank you for going out there and kind of giving us updates in real time.
Well, some of the main thoroughfares coming into Hendersonville were just flat out closed. The news couldn't get here. I think I saw one lady on the ground from NPR. She must have lived in the area or something. But it was very difficult for anybody to get around, and I lived close enough to the roads that were closed that after everything calmed down, I drove up there and just walked Main Street to give Matt some of the areas that were definitely stay away from areas. And Hendersonville was unique in the fact that not a lot of residential total destruction. Lots of people lost, roofs and parts of their house, but it wasn't like previous tornadoes where whole houses were ripped apart. But the business district is what suffered so much. It's Main Street, where all the businesses are. People are not going to be able to open their businesses for quite some time, and it was a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it's so sad. How does it look now that we're a couple days out, daylight's hitting again? What does the scene look like on the ground today, Tim?
I was not able to drive through that area just because I go a different way to work. I'm actually on my way into work, but yesterday I worked some cleanup in one of the worst hit neighborhoods. Trees were down everywhere in the Hunters Trail and Clearview Circle area. Lots of areas in the city that still don't have power, but a lot of them are coming up online now. I see the reports coming through on social media. But the whole city was out of power. There was not a single traffic light working in the city until sometime late last night, early this morning. Some of them have been restored now. So the policemen have been working overtime, double time. Really thank our first responders for doing all that they do. My sons, they're both firemen. They got called in for extra duty on their days off. So just really thank a first responder from C1 and the NES and Cumberland Electric linemen that came out that have been working nonstop. Just really thank those guys if you see one, because they're working nonstop to get everybody back as soon as possible. These cold temperatures, I hate that a lot of people don't have power right now.
Amen, man. Hey, thanks again for touching base with us while all that was happening, and thanks again for kind of reaching out and kind of giving us a lay of the land of what it looks like today. We really appreciate you, Tim.
Sure thing. Thank you guys for your coverage of this.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate the call. It's like we're watching storm coverage last night, and my kids are watching. It's like it's scary, and it's like, what do you do? And I always think of that Mr. Rogers line. It's like, look for the helpers, and they're out there. They are. You see the devastation. You see the houses torn apart and those businesses. It's scary. It's especially for little kids, but it's like, look for the helpers, because the firefighters are there, the volunteers are there, the police are there. So look for those helpers. And if you see them out there today, make sure you say thank you. It's 9:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
tornado recovery, and Democrats have a problem. Former President Trump's climbing in the polls, and it's not just among Republicans. Details at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Real quick, let's go to Jonathan in Hendersonville. He's got a comment on the tornadoes. Jonathan, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, man?
Well, first of all, like everyone else, we appreciate your coverage yesterday. Literally, I pulled out my battery charged, rechargeable battery radio, and that was the source when everything else wouldn't work. So, radio, man.
Hey, man. And
we got a password. Radio is important.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing. I'm friends with a lot of the small businesses people. I'm in sales along Main Street, Hendersonville, and a couple of them I'm kind of close to because I'm dealing with them, And the story is just firsthand testimonies from guys at, say, Midtown Court there at New Shackle. These are guys renting. They're entrepreneurs renting from the lowest cost older building, from a renter that barely maintains the building, right? So now their windows are blown out, their garage doors are blown out, some of the roofs blown off, and they're concerned that they have to go find some other place that's way more expensive to do their business. That's their whole livelihood. So let's say some prayers, and maybe we can work up some kind of, I know they're in it for money, but they serve us too, it'd be really cool if, a lot of folks step up and support these guys because, they're honest. They wouldn't be in business for a long time if they weren't honest and caring for the community,
Yeah.
And, it's all Ace Hardware. You name it down there, Jolly Ollie's, the Miracle there, and so safe that those are so proud that those 30 people didn't get killed. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I'm a little bit hyper over, being able to talk to you, Chris. You're an awesome dude, man.
Hey, man,
And,
I appreciate you calling in. And
I'll shut up a second.
No, you're great, man, and I appreciate you calling in. I think it's so true. It's like wrap those guys up in prayer, and I think that at the end of the day, we can all agree that if there's any state that's going to pull together and help everybody out, it's Tennessee. I appreciate your call, Jonathan. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's the latest headlines from Ken Weaver.
9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and right now the tornado recovery is underway. Governor Bill Lee, after touring the devastation yesterday.
We also, of course, have begun the formal process of emergency declaration and of pursuing relief through that federal government.
Right now, one of the fastest ways to get help is, if you need it, is by dialing 211. Election 2024. Former President Donald Trump has the upper hand over President Biden in two critical battleground states, Michigan and Georgia, with broad majorities in both states holding negative views of the sitting president's job performance, policy positions, and sharpness. This according to a new CNN poll. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country, and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now, what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
.937 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. Ken Weaver in the newsroom, Mac Maury producing. Continuing coverage of the tornadoes over the weekend. Top and bottom of every hour, Ken Weaver will have the latest updates. If you want to find out how you can help, you can hop on our Facebook page, 997 WTN, or on our Twitter, at 997 WTN. Crazy storms. Crazy storms. I got a couple texts here, and I was getting tweets over the weekend that now that, the storms have passed, they wanted me to bring a song for Mac.
Oh, of course.
The Bills make me wanna shout. Kick your heels up and shout. Throw your hands up and shout. Throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout. Yeah, 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 yeah. Shout it right now, baby.
I feel like this one's one of my favorites. I feel like it works both ways. Because Chiefs fans can agree that the Bills made them want to shout.
Yes, did shout.
Buffalo's happening now. We're on the move now. The Bills are happening now. They're making it happen now. We got the spirit, a lot of spirit, yeah. We got the spirit.
You like it?
Watch it
I hate it.
Where would you rate this in terms of the other songs?
This is the worst. this is the
Is
worst.
it worse than the Midwest Polka?
This stings. This stings.
The Bills make me wanna.
Do you think that one was the worst?
This is terrible. So bad.
I can't believe so many teams have cheesy songs for me to play.
I know.
for you.
What is happening? I would have rather you had to jump on a table or something, but they actually had a song for you to
Oh, yeah, they did.
conjure up.
The Bills make me wanna.
Gosh.
So I had to bring that for you.
Well, and you always find the short little clip that you can play after, so that you
Yeah.
can just quickly, just
The Bills make me wanna.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yep.
That's good.
I
Very
said that.
repeatable. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Like quick.
The Bills make me wanna.
I had multiple texts over the weekend wondering what I was going to do for you, for the
It's
Bills.
lovely.
Yeah.
So glad this has become a regularity.
So a lot of people said they were rooting against the Chiefs just
for
the,
that.
just for the song.
It's lovely.
Yeah. 8759 said, have the Chiefs won a game since Kelsey started endorsing Pfizer? Coincidence? I think they've won one.
Yes is the answer. Yes.
Yeah.
The Bills make me wanna.
All right, so I saw a headline on the Daily Mail, and they were like, Taylor Swift is consoling Travis Kelce after the Bills loss.
The Bills make me wanna.
But you know what they said? You know what they called it?
What?
A travesty.
No. Ugh.
So what's worse? What's worse?
worse?
The travesty or
The Bills make me wanna.
That's so hard to rank. I'm going to need some time to think about that. That's pretty bad.
tell you what, before the playoffs start, we're gonna do a power ranking of all of the songs that I've had for you. We had an Eagles chant. We didn't have a Detroit Lions song. We're gonna have to find a Detroit
No, you had your
Lions
shirt
song.
on,
I had
though.
my shirt on.
Yeah.
And we've had our Midwest polka.
For the Packers. Yep.
Yep. And now we have the is this like it's Motown-esque, right?
The Bills make me wanna.
Yeah. Yeah. Motown's fine. It's great.
So this one's not your favorite?
No, it doesn't help that I absolutely despise the Bills, but it's all good.
I don't like the Bills either.
No, obviously. Yeah, you don't. Patriots. Yeah.
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 But I do love that look on your face.
The Bills make me wanna.
Yeah. You don't need. Did you watch the game?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I
It's all
didn't.
right. Yeah, just
I didn't.
confirming.
I didn't. I just put the notifications on my phone for the Chiefs. So I've been watching some of them, and I'm like, why am I watching these? I'm
Like, I don't actually
the
care.
internet exists.
The Bills make me wanna.
All right. I just wanted you to know I was thinking about you this weekend.
Oh, I really. That's so touching. Like, oh, I hope Mac's doing okay. No, it's more like, yes, yes, they lost.
Got him. It's,
Yeah.
it's a lot less fun.
It's hard
when
when
they
the refs and the other team is playing against you. But
win. Oh,
it's
did
all
they
good.
make you want to shout?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The bills make me wanna.
All right. All right. So over the weekend, I could spend another couple minutes on this, but I won't.
Bills make me wanna.
So over the weekend, we had the storms here in the area, which were devastating. And if you want to find out how to help those affected, I mean, we're 2 weeks out from Christmas. I understand that there's a sense of everybody wanting to kind of jump in, all hands on deck. I love that about this state. You can go to our Facebook page. You can go to our Twitter page, 99.7 WTN. There are links posted now for how you can jump in and help. So please do that if you feel so inclined to do so. Also over the weekend, Alex Jones was reinstated on Twitter. X, Twitter. It's a big deal. I thought it was a big deal. There was a vote, about 2 million people, and he was reinstated. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even close. It was about 70-30 on whether to reinstate Alex Jones or bring him or leave him banned. He was reinstated. He was reinstated. Also reinstated was InfoWars. Fascinating. Fascinating how quickly it happened. It happened quickly. And shout out to Elon Musk for listening to the people. Now, when this happened, one of the things that happened over the weekend, which was pretty crazy as well, was there was a Twitter Spaces, which is kind of like a Zoom call on Twitter, right? Would you agree? Zoom call on Twitter?
Yeah.
Everybody kind of everybody has their microphone on. It's like a live podcast. But this Twitter Spaces was insane. It had Elon Musk, Alex Jones, Andrew Tate, Christian Tate, Matt Gaetz, Vivek Ramaswamy, Patrick Bet-David, Jack Posobiec, General Michael Flynn, Mario Knopfel, Mark Dice. It had a ton of people. I couldn't really remember a time where we've had that many people who seem like they're all over the board. Big names on one Twitter space. I think that may have been the biggest one that's ever happened. Yeah, Elon, Alex Jones, Matt Gaetz, Vivek. I mean, a presidential candidate, a congressman, a general, tons of people under investigation. Alex Jones. It was very cool to watch or listen to. My wife said it was like a town hall on Twitter. It was interesting. A lot of different comments coming out of that Twitter space. Now, one of the questions that was asked of Alex Jones was, did you communicate with Elon before you were reinstated? Did you talk to Elon? Was this part of a plan? Because it seemed like it happened so quick after the Tucker Carlson interview aired, and people want to know, what was the back channel discussion like?
One final question, if you don't mind. Have you communicated with Musk at all before you were reinstated, or did this happen kind of suddenly?
No, I haven't communicated with Elon, and I'm good friends with Joe Rogan. He didn't tell me any secrets, but we get dinner, here and there, and he hangs out with Musk quite a bit. And he told me like 2-3 years ago, he goes, "No, Musk is totally for real, and really is pissed off about what's going on." And Joe basically said, he says a lot of the same stuff you say, to me at dinner, he says at dinner. And so, I really have just been really pleased at what Musk has done. Christ said you judge a tree by its fruits, and the fruit coming out of Musk is just all good. It's really amazing.
One of the takeaways for me was that he said, Joe Rogan told him, what you talk to me about at dinner, Alex, is what Elon talks to me about at dinner. And I think that's one of the things about Alex Jones is he says some crazy things, but he's kind of on the money on a lot of things as well. And I think that whether you like Alex Jones or dislike Alex Jones, there's a lot he says that we can all agree with. And he even says something that I've said before. I get weary about Elon Musk, but he says even some people he knows get weary about Elon Musk. But he thinks that, again, you judge him by his fruit, and he seems pretty solid.
And I've told my own listeners this because Musk has pushed some things, that people can take and say, oh, that's bad. Well, my uncle was in a motorcycle accident and got an experimental brain chip 5 years ago, and now can walk and talk and everything else. So I'm not against brain chips when you need them. And I don't think Musk is bad for pushing that. I don't think school kids should get them, or they should be, sold at a consumer level, and people should be told go out and get them if something isn't wrong with you. But I'm also a libertarian. If you want to go out and get a brain chip, that's fine. But my audience, in the last few years is like, well, maybe he is good. And then now they're like, wow, this guy's great because he's doing so much good. You really can't argue with the product. And that's why the establishment's after him. And that's the final thing somebody's good when the very corrupt, evil establishment is after him. So,
and the establishment is after Elon. Elon's been changing the platform to be more transparent, more free speech, and this is just another step in the right direction. You shouldn't be punished for saying something wrong half a decade ago for the rest of your life. And we can all agree that some of his takes on Sandy Hook were off the mark. Some of the stuff that he said was wrong. But he's apologized ad nauseum. Now, he also goes on to say that Elon Musk is not suicidal. Elon said it plenty of times. He's not suicidal. And in this clip, it kind of highlights to me one of the reasons I think Alex Jones is important to the discussion. He goes on and says, Elon is not suicidal. And then the convo turns to Trump.
If they gun down Elon Musk, that only makes him bigger. But he's such a threat, they might do it even though it makes him into a martyr because they know there's not leadership to replace him. So absolutely, it's very important he get it on record that he will never commit suicide. That's why Trump will, be randomly driving down the road and order Secret Service to pull over at a hamburger place.
This is the part I think is fascinating right here about Trump pulling over at hamburger joints.
Will, be randomly driving down the road and order Secret Service to pull over at a hamburger place. And he walks in and says, I'm buying hamburgers for all of you. And he stands right there at the counter and watches it made, has them deliver him the bags, and then he randomly grabs one. And I'm not going to get into inside baseball, but
he says he's not going to get into inside baseball, and then he immediately gets into inside baseball. I also want to point that out.
the kind of stuff they were doing to Trump early on, and I first broke this, and later it came out that he thought this too. They said, oh, Trump's crazy. He thinks they're putting, sedatives in his food. Early on in the White House, I've been told by high-level sources that he did indeed believe that was happening. So they also might not kill Musk, but he should watch out for them, putting radioactive isotope in his food or some type of tranquilizer that builds up in the blood. I mean, this is the real stuff that these intelligence agencies that think they own us have done around the world. So people better watch out.
So, this is why I think Alex Jones is important to the conversation. He says something like that, and I go, radioactive isotopes in your food? Like, what is he going on about? So, of course, I do a Google search, and I find this story from The Guardian in 2016 about a former Russian spy who had then kind of flipped and had been providing info to the British and their Spanish counterparts. And this guy was poisoned. His name was Alexander Litvinenko. I'm probably butchering that because I'm not good with Russian. But this guy was poisoned. And he was poisoned with a radioactive isotope. And this was in 2016. I'm sorry, 2006, not 2016. On November 1st, 2006, Litvinenko fell suddenly ill. On November 3rd, he was admitted to a hospital in London. He was moved later to intensive care. His illness was attributed to poisoning with radionuclide polonium-210 after the Health Protection Agency found significant amounts of the rare and highly toxic element in his body. And I think that's one of the things about Alex Jones that I find fascinating. He gets me thinking. I would never have thought that you could poison somebody with radioactive isotopes, the way he says it. But then you Google it, you start doing a little research, and there are certain instances where this has happened. On his deathbed, this former spy, Litvinenko, claimed that Putin had directly ordered his assassination. Directly ordered it. Apparently, he had met with two former agents early on the day before he fell ill, and a high polonium contamination was found in him. And they also found traces of it on a cup that he had used. which is just wild. You know, Chuck Schumer said these intelligence agencies have 5 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And then you see intelligence agencies around the world getting back at you with, getting back at another former spy with a rare, odorless, tasteless radioactive element that are highly toxic to the body. So these theories do have some basis in fact. Did it happen to Trump? I don't know. But when he points out that Trump stops at all these burger joints and watches the food made, buys it for everybody, we know that happens. You often wonder, why does he go to McDonald's all the time? It's kind of weird. Maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there isn't. But it gets you thinking. And I think that's important. I think that's important for the conversation. There's more from this Twitter space with Alex Jones that we can talk about. I got more audio to play. Hang out with us. It's 9:53 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
10 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Got a traffic problem. Stalled vehicle blocking the right lane of 65 southbound. This is going to be in Robertson County right before the Gallatin Cross Plains Highway 25 exit. Tornado recovery underway. Governor Bill Lee, after touring the destruction to see firsthand, says the process of getting federal help to recover underway.
There are victims whose lives are devastated and will never be the same. There are victims who have family members that they'll never see again.
One of the fastest ways to get help if you need it is by dialing 211. Elsewhere in Tennessee, hearts are heavy among Titans fans after the untimely passing of one of the most popular players in franchise history. Former tight end Frank Wycheck passed away over the weekend. His family says he fell and hit his head at his home in Chattanooga Saturday morning. He was found unresponsive that afternoon. Frank Wycheck was 52 years old. Election 2024. New polls show former President Trump is surging. So are the attacks on Trump, as we hear in this from ABC's Jonathan Karl, who says the GOP frontrunners doubling down on comments he made about wanting to be a dictator on day one if elected.
Some of Trump's Republican supporters have dismissed the comments as a joke, but Trump went on to promise to use the power of the presidency to go after his political opponents, including threatening prosecution, saying it is justified because he now faces multiple indictments. Former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney is calling him a threat to American democracy who must be stopped.
Now, Trump explained he wants to close the border and expand oil drilling on day one of a second term. Meanwhile, CNN says its latest poll shows Trump has the upper hand over Joe Biden in two critical battleground states, Michigan and Georgia. And a new Iowa poll shows Trump has surpassed 50% support ahead of anyone else in the Republican primary. And that's ahead of the first primary there in Iowa. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah, all right.
Good idea. It's past opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work, have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bart Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
Here we go, 10:03 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hope you're having a great day. Now, I know a lot of people have been affected by the tornadoes over the weekend. If you want to find out how to help, go to our Facebook page, 99.7 WTN, or our Twitter page at 99.7 WTN. There are links there for you to jump in and help out. So please do. 2 weeks to Christmas. I can't imagine having to deal with that. Luckily, I couldn't imagine a better state and better people in this community that are willing to jump in and help. So those links are there for you. Please go visit our Facebook page, visit our Twitter page, 99.7 WTN, if you want to get involved. As we continue, we were talking about Alex Jones being reinstated on Twitter. It's crazy, man. It's like whenever you silence somebody, people want to hear from them more. Isn't that fascinating how that works out? Before he was banned, he had about 800K on Twitter. 800K. He's over 1.5 million followers since being reinstated.
Wow.
Like, it's only been 2 days.
It doubled. Dang.
That's wild, right?
Yeah.
People don't like you censoring people, like censoring info. People don't like big tech censoring voices. And I think it's always a bad route to go. Let the opinions of people be sorted out in the digital public square. That's the move. Because, he does have stuff to say. Now, I know that he got a lot of flack about Sandy Hook. And during this Twitter Spaces that they had yesterday, there was a gang of people on it. Matt Gaetz, Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk, Mario Nawfal. Who else was there? The Tate brothers were on it. So many people. The Krasenstein brothers were on it at one point. And Sandy Hook did come up. The Sandy Hook stuff did come up, and Alex Jones addressed it. A lot of people hate him for that. He addressed what happened with Sandy Hook.
I mean, I did question it. I did say a few times that I thought it hadn't happened, but I didn't turn the knife. I didn't really think about it. I thought about how I was talking about the internet with YouTube videos with 30, 40 million views that I didn't make.
Sure.
It was a hot topic that would come back from time to time. But no, I was not the creator of it. I was not the progenitor of it. I was not the guy pushing it.
Yeah.
And then I kept saying, no, I believe it happened. And they went, aha, you now admit you lied for money. So what's not true is I never made any money off of it. I barely ever covered it. It's not my identity.
Now, I don't know how much he covered it in real time. I wasn't paying attention to it. I think that you could make the case that he made some money off of it. I think that case could be made. But he does jump in, and he does mention that, he's apologized several times.
There's over 100 apologies.
Sure.
That I've given, over 100. In fact, probably 500. Every show I go on, they ask this. I apologized on Joe Rogan's show 5 years ago. I apologized on Patrick Ben-David's show 5 years ago. I mean, these are prominent ones. I apologized on every show, and I'll say it again. I apologized.
So he goes up over the fact that he's apologized. He's apologized multiple times. How many times does he need to apologize? Now, the Twitter space starts getting wild. It does. He does highlight why he originally believed that Sandy Hook could have been faked, which it wasn't. But he does highlight why, and I think it's important to get kind of some background on his thought process during that time.
This is why I believe what people were saying and actually questioned and for a little while thought it might not have happened. We were lied to about WMDs in Iraq. We were lied to about anthrax in Iraq. There was Operation Northwoods.
That is true.
There was Operation Northwoods in 2000. ABC News, declassified. U.S. government plan to stage fake mass shootings and blowing up airlines with people that would take off and would land, CIA, and then they would actually just blow up a drone plane and then claim a mass event had happened or claim a mass fake shooting happened. So
now, we've talked about Operation Northwoods on this show. It's declassified. It really happened. And I think what happens here is when your government lies to you on so many occasions, and it's proven that they've lied to you on so many occasions, it's hard to believe them when they're telling the truth. When the media lies to you on numerous occasions, and we have time after time, the media lying about big news events, be it WMDs, be it COVID started in a lab, the efficacy of masks, the media will lie to you. And when you have a media industrial complex that lies to you time and time and time again, is it hard to think maybe they could have faked this for gun control? Like, I get his thought process. He was wrong, but at least he explains his thought process. Now, the Twitter space at that point turned to Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek jumped in on the Twitter space, and he kind of jumps in on not letting people speak and how that's the wrong route to go.
No matter what the content of the speech is, it's quite a different thing to say that because of who you are or what you have said in the past, you may not say another thing in the future.
I think he's absolutely right. Like, people make mistakes all the time. I mean, one of my first show here, I said, I'm going to screw things up. You talk for 3-4 hours a day, you're going to mess things up. And the best thing that you can do is apologize, own it when you're wrong, and move on. but you can't ban somebody from speaking forever.
And so I just think that those are two different concepts. And I just, for one, just wanted to share my experience of my Alex Jones experience, if I may.
That is perfectly said.
Yeah.
That's because you don't cut somebody's tongue out,
Yeah.
even if I did bad things in the past. And I
But
certainly wasn't
but you know what? But if people say false things, they deserve to have the consequences for that particular speech aired out in the marketplace of opinions. And community notes is one feature of doing that. And I think that's a legitimate discussion to have.
And I think that's legitimate as well. If you say something wrong, you should definitely have it aired out. I think that he faced repercussions for what he said wrong. Does that mean he should be banned forever? Well, the community on Twitter voted to reinstate him. It's one of the things I really like about Elon. My opinion is his opinion aside, let the people speak.
But the idea, first of all, let's just make the observation that if somebody has once said a bad thing, then they'd be restrained from speaking. Most people who have been in a position of prominence in the U.S. federal government would not be allowed to speak again in other forums if that was the standard we were applying, right? I mean, you think about anybody who's been in the CIA or the FBI in a position of saying that the Hunter Biden laptop story was false or COVID didn't start in a lab in China. So we could go down that whole rabbit hole.
He's right. How many times have we been lied to by government officials? How many former intelligence officials said the laptop was Russian disinformation? We know it wasn't Russian disinformation, but they still gaslight and lie to you about it. And I think that a lot of this goes back on them. When you've been lied to time and time again by the media and by the government, it's a lot easier to stomach some of these wild theories.
As Alex said earlier, I mean, and this is not meant to be any kind of attack on George Bush, but George Bush did say, George Bush II did say that there were WMDs in Iraq. He said it not once, but many times, and that
and a lot.
He did not have sufficient evidence to make that.
And a lot more people died as a consequence of that statement than of anything that Alex Jones has incorrectly said.
Yeah, and you know what? George Bush still throws out the first pitch of the World Series. He's not banned when he lies and people die. And nobody died as a result of Alex Jones lying about Sandy Hook. So it feels like a double standard. It really does. Vivek also talked about how he met Alex Jones.
In Texas, I visited the southern border. And, I popped in Austin on the way back or somewhere, I forget where we were. And I heard Alex Jones that's where he was. I said, I want to meet this guy that everybody says don't meet. And so we sat down and I was actually surprised, and we actually aired it on X, or I put out clips of it on X. I can't remember in like a podcast format. And so I was expecting to get in a debate about the Sandy Hook thing. And as soon as I open up, what I get is a guy apologized for being wrong. And then we moved on and talked about something else. And so for me, it was just interesting and eye opening.
And he's apologized a bunch for that. You have a guy running for president who basically is saying, listen, he's apologized. We can let him speak again. And I think that's good. Meanwhile, has Eric Swalwell apologized for sleeping with a Chinese spy? No, of course not. Has Adam Schiff apologized for saying that he saw the info on Russia collusion and that it's damning? No, of course not. They're still allowed to speak. There's a double standard that we're not addressing. But luckily, it seems like on X, Twitter, it's being addressed. And I think that's good.
And I think it would be interesting and eye-opening for a lot of people as well to sort of know that there are people who would have ever thought, made some mistakes, said some things that were wrong, and said some other things that were dead right that nobody else was saying either. And the way that we get to the bottom of what's true is actually hearing one another. And when people say something false, they deserve to be held accountable for it. So I think that's what it's a cool thing that, hopefully we're able to have more of that rather than less because of the existence. I mean, if this platform didn't exist, that avenue of sorting out bad speech through more speech doesn't really exist on the internet or in our culture. And so I think that's, in response to that, a good thing, not a bad thing, in my opinion.
No, more discussion is a good thing. More discussion will always be a good thing. And when you silence people, especially in today's day and age with with the censorship industrial complex that we're seeing, they only censor the truth, it seems like. So when somebody lies and they get censored for it, that leads a lot more people to believe his wild theories than it does discredit them. So I think that you got to let people talk. Let the truth surface. The truth, it will always come to the top. The cream rises to the top. And censoring people isn't going to help anything. Now, there's more from this, which is wild. Elon starts talking with Jack Posobiec. And he's asked about how the FBI was involved in Twitter in the past and what happens if the FBI gets involved again. Does he reach out? If the FBI reaches out and says something needs to be censored, what is Elon's move?
Well, actually, Congressman Gates, the fact you mentioned that about the FBI and CISA, this has been the huge thing that's come out of the Twitter files. And it was a two-way street. So while you're tracking what the government was doing in 2020 vis-a-vis censorship, really leaning on regards to the Hunter Drive laptop, which we released in October of 2020. This is actually a huge question for X going forward into 2024, because Elon, you've said that you want to be in, working in conjunction within the confines of the law. But the question is, if that law is being enforced by the law enforcement agency of the FBI or the DHS, and then they come to X and say, these posts need to be censored, this information needs to be censored because we've determined whatever it is, how does X make that determination?
Well, if we believe that something is not in accordance with the law, then we will ask a judge or jury to make a decision.
And I think that's good. If it's not legal, it should be removed. Meanwhile, there's a story out about Meta being sued by New Mexico over child sexual exploitation and child porn. And they're claiming that criminals use pizza as a code on Facebook and Instagram. Notably, cheese pizza, because it shares initials with child porn. This is from the Post Millennial. It's making rounds everywhere. New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres has filed a lawsuit against Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and the subsidiaries owned by Meta, alleging that Facebook and Instagram knowingly exposes children to the twin dangers of sexual exploitation and mental health harm, noting that cheese pizza is a common proxy for child pornography seen on the platforms. Now, they can silence the information about the COVID virus originating from a lab, but they can't remove child porn from the platforms. Are any advertisers going to be dropping out or banning Meta, Facebook, and Instagram over this? I mean, I'm waiting. Bob Iger of Disney makes a big grandstand about how he's pulling ads from Twitter because he's anti-Semitic. They say Elon's an anti-Semite. How could he? We have to pull Twitter ads. But now Meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram, are being sued by the New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres for saying they expose children to the twin dangers of sexual exploitation and mental health harm. Where are the advertisers? Are they still going to advertise? I think they will, because this seems like it's a big virtue signal. Pulling ads from Twitter is a big virtue signal. None of these corporations actually care. The lawsuit goes on. Meta's platforms, Facebook and Instagram, are a breeding ground for predators who target children for human trafficking. The distribution of sexual images, grooming, and solicitation. Teens and preteens can easily register for unrestricted accounts because of a lack of age verification. When they do, Meta directs harmful and inappropriate material at them. Let me say that again. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, direct harmful and inappropriate material at them. That's baked in the code. It allows unconnected adults to have unfettered access to them, which those adults use for grooming and solicitation. The lawsuit filed in the First Judicial District Court of New Mexico states. It's a big story. The lawsuit states that warnings have been raised by on both the inside and the outside of the company for years, but nonetheless failed to stem the tide of damaging sexual material and sexual propositions delivered to children. An investigation carried out by the Attorney General's office has found that Meta has served sexually explicit material to children through its recommendation algorithm. It's baked in the code. It's enabled adults to find and interact with minors to sell photos or participate in pornographic videos, hosted unmoderated user-run groups that are devoted to child pornography, and allowed and failed to detect a fictional mother offering her 13-year-old for trafficking, and solicited the 13-year-old to create her own professional page and sell advertising. That's Meta. That's Facebook. That's Instagram. The lawsuit notes that numerous Instagram accounts that offer links to child pornography through secondary platforms frequently feature biographies that state all new kid links available, with many of them, the usernames including the word pizza, notably cheese pizza. That was a conspiracy theory just a few years ago. Accounts feature fully nude or scantily clad young children in sexual positions and texts that talk about the pricing of content, as well as links to purchase it through platforms like Telegram or WhatsApp, because those platforms are encrypted. Investigators created an Instagram account for a 13-year-old girl after 2 unsuccessful attempts to create accounts on Facebook, and were able to follow accounts that signaled connections to child pornography with pizza seller or links, little girls, or young girl sell in their name. She also was promptly followed by a similar set of sexually themed groups with sexually themed names. Investigators made an account for a 13-year-old girl on Facebook, which was then recommended sexually explicit accounts to follow and was served sexually explicit content through the hashtag 13-year-olds. Just get your kids off these platforms. Now, Elon Musk doubled down. You know, he said that he would cooperate and take something down if it was illegal. But Jack Posobiec, really drives the question home, pushes on it again. Well, if the FBI comes to you for censorship, what will you do?
Well, if those agencies, though, the FBI, the DHS, et cetera, if they reach out to X, I believe they called it defensive briefings in 2020 regarding, which eventually culminated in the censorship of Hunter Biden. If they started reaching out again, would that be something that you or the team, and no, I can understand if you don't want to answer now, but you would consider making public?
We will be as transparent as possible with that, and frankly, if I think a government agency is breaking the law in their demands on the platform, I would be prepared to go to prison personally if I think they are the ones breaking the law.
I love it. He said he would go to prison personally. It's 10:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at USS, United Structural Systems. I'm still sort of new to WTN, but I'm not new to USS. I've heard their commercials for years on Super Talk, and I had a chance to meet the guys at United Structural Systems, and I got to tell you, they're good, honest people, hardworking, proud of the work they do, but they do say you don't know you need them until you know you need them. They say in their industry, a lot of people don't realize that they need full crawl space encapsulation. Maybe you don't realize that you have cracks in your basement floor or that you have a sinkhole that keeps getting worse. You kind of get blind to the problems of your own house. Well, if you're noticing any of those things, wet basement walls, cracks in your basement floors, your house is trying to tell you something, and you should give the guys at USS a call. They've been doing and fixing these problems since 1994, and they have 25,000 satisfied customers that will back them up. So if you have any issues like this in your house, if you need concrete lifting, if you need structural repair, if you need full crawl space encapsulation, there's only one company to call, one company you can trust, USS, United Structural Systems, 615-488-7855, 615-488-7855, or online, USSTN.com.
Robertson County 65 southbound, the right lane blocked right there at the Gallatin Cross Plains Highway 25 exit. That is due to a stalled vehicle. We're learning more about the victims of the deadly tornado outbreak, and new polls show former President Trump is surging. These stories and more at 10:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
10:28 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. It's Chris Hand. Got a text here from 4070 on Alex Jones. Says it wasn't just misspeak. It was deeply, deeply hurtful to the parents who lost children at Sandy Hook. Put yourself in their place. You've lost a child and somebody says, no, you didn't. It was just play acting, and they say it all over social media. Yes, he did hurt people. I totally get it. And I was just talking to Mac off air. Full disclosure, I have a friend, a former coworker, who had a child at the Sandy Hook school as it was happening. So I get it. I get people were hurt. But I still don't think you can ban somebody from the internet forever moving forward. I don't. People say hurtful things a lot. And I don't think that he was the only one saying hurtful things. But he was the one that faced the brunt of the blowback from it. On the flip side of that, you know, when you talk about it, Elon and Vivek were going back and forth, they say, well, George Bush lied about WMDs in Iraq. A lot more people died because of that. And yes, I understand it's hurtful to parents. I do. I get it. I mean, I have young kids. It's very easy for me to put myself in their shoes. But just because you say the wrong thing doesn't mean you should be banned forever. That's my thoughts on it. I appreciate your text, 4070, and I appreciate you bringing the other side and trying to, you know, bring that counterpoint to the conversation, because I think it is an important conversation to have. But 4070, do you think that means he should be banned forever? I'm not saying that you do. I'm just curious. Your thoughts on it. It's 10:30 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver with the latest headlines.
Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Right now, we're learning more about the victims of the deadly tornado outbreak over the weekend. 10-year-old Arlen Burnham died as his two-story home in Clarksville collapsed. He is among the 6 people who perished in this weekend storm. Damage assessment and cleanup is underway. Governor Bill Lee toured the destruction yesterday. He said the process of getting federal recovery assistance underway.
It's sobering. What we have witnessed today across the state of Tennessee, really sad, really heartbreaking.
One of the fastest ways to get help if you need it is by dialing 211. Election 2024, fresh polling shows former President Trump more than 30 points ahead of any challenger among likely Republican caucus goers in Iowa. That includes the latest surveys from NBC. And CNN says its latest poll shows Trump leading Joe Biden in a head-to-head in critical battleground states of Michigan and Georgia. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now, what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
It's getting colder, and if your heat is not up to par, you are starting to notice it. But you shouldn't be waiting for a problem to pop up with your heat this time of year. You got to be proactive and keep your unit in tippy-toppy shape. Whether you need annual maintenance, repair, or replacement heating and air system, you should call who I trust, Busy Bee HVAC. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee, and you are not going to find a better value on replacement systems. These guys will offer up to 12 months, no payment, no interest, with approved credit, and it pays in so many ways to be a member of the Beehive Club. You just sign up for annual maintenance on your heating and air system from Busy Bee. For added rewards and savings, sign up to be a Beehive member. You get thorough annual maintenance on your heating and air at the beginning of each heating and cooling season for just $99 per unit, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Now, if you're already a member of the Beehive Club, you wouldn't be realizing now that your heating system isn't up to par, because they would have already come out for that annual maintenance and you would have had it fixed. Remember, they have convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls, so you'll never be left out in the cold. Busy Bee, your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee HVAC, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833, or online, busybeehvac.com.
Look at the way people look at Alex Jones now, because Alex Jones has been on my podcast a few times. The people that have watched those podcasts think he's hilarious, and they think that he definitely fucked up with that whole Sandy Hook thing. But he's right more than he's wrong, and he's not an evil guy. He's just a guy who's had some psychotic breaks in his life. He's had some genuine mental health issues that he's addressed. He's had some serious bouts of alcoholism, some serious bouts of, substance abuse, and they've contributed to some very poor thinking. But if you know the guy, if you get to know him like I have, I've known him for more than 20 years. And if you know him on podcasts, you realize like he is genuinely trying to unearth some things that are genuinely disturbing for most people. Like, this is a guy that was telling me about Epstein's island a decade ago, at least. He was telling me about it. I was like, what? You're telling me there's a place where they bring elites to compromise them with underage girls and they film them? Really? Like, what? Cut the out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, no, President Clinton's been there. Everyone's been there. Like, what? It sounds like nonsense.
It does if you're not paying attention. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm not here to cover for Alex Jones. I'm not here to hold water for him. But when you apologize for these things, when you've been wrong, you own it. Should you be banned from the internet forever? I think it's a kudo to Elon for reinstating him, for letting the people on his platform speak. And I think that, you see people do want to hear what Alex Jones has to say. I mean, from the point that he was reinstated, he had 800,000 followers. Today, he has over 1.5 million. People want to hear what this guy has to say. And I think that people deserve to have the opportunity to hear what he has to say. He was the first guy to be completely deplatformed. He was the test case for the banning. And after it worked with Alex, they moved on to Trump and removed him from all social media platforms. It's like one of those things. I don't have to agree with everything that he says for me to say it was wrong that they banned him. And they used that as a test case, and then they did it to a sitting president. They did it to a sitting president. Also, I think it's also important to remember that as everybody flips out over Elon restoring this account, he wasn't banned from Twitter back in 2018 because of Sandy Hook stuff. Like, yes, he entertained conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook. He broadcasted conspiracy theories about Sandy Hook. They were insane. He's an insane guy. Like I said a moment ago, I have a friend who had kids at Sandy Hook, texted him that day. That happened. But the reason that Alex was banned from social media wasn't because of Sandy Hook. He was banned because he confronted Oliver Darcy, who was working for CNN. It took place on public property. Oliver Darcy was not working as a reporter at the time. It was outside of a congressional hearing about censorship on social media. Twitter 1.0 claimed it was harassment. They used that to ban him off the platforms. And it's crazy to me because it was outside of a congressional hearing on censorship. He was taken off YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And it was because he kind of humiliated Oliver Darcy from CNN. I think that people should listen to this Twitter space. I think people should watch the Tucker Carlson interview with Alex Jones and make your own opinion on him. I don't think that you should just swallow what the media tells you about him. They rehashed the Sandy Hook stuff over and over again to demonize him, and he was wrong for that. But he wasn't banned for that. He was banned over confronting Oliver Darcy from CNN. He was banned to silence him. He wasn't banned because of a crazy conspiracy theory from years earlier. And the fact of the matter is, when the guy is really cooking with gas, he highlights a lot of things about corrupt political elites that nobody else really touches. And I think it's good to have his voice out there. At the very least, it gets you thinking. At the very least. Now, when they were talking on this Twitter space, the conversation went to the fact that, this story, the Sandy Hook story, got regurgitated because of a PR firm. They said it was a PR firm that really kind of resurfaced this whole Sandy Hook thing as he was being banned from social media.
Then they go back to my timeline, and it turns out it was a big New York PR firm, Democratic Party. They dredge it up. They run hundreds of articles, sometimes a day, but a week for over a year. Suddenly it becomes a big story again.
What's the PR firm?
Pardon me?
Which propaganda firm was this? PR is public relations is a propaganda word for propaganda. So I think we should call PR firms propaganda firms because that is in fact what they do.
PR firms are propaganda firms. He says public relations. Elon Musk. Public relations is a propaganda word for propaganda. Interesting. This is another one of those things. These conversations are important because honestly, I'd never really thought of that. Full disclosure. PR firms are just propaganda firms. But when you begin to think about it, you go, that kind of makes sense. They deliver talking points. They deliver spin. They deliver narrative. That's what PR firms do. Elon elaborates on the fact that he thinks PR firms are propaganda firms.
To just elaborate on the public relations firms, PR firms, which really should be called propaganda firms because that's literally, public relations is literally a propaganda word for propaganda. You can read the history of how public relations was developed.
Edward Bernays.
Correct. But the way that PR firms actually corrupt the media is actually in a very significant way. Is that journalists are paid very little as journalists, but they can later retire and join a PR firm and make a lot of money on the basis of the articles they've written in the past and their contacts at their publication. So there is actually a strong monetary incentive, very strong, for corruption of the traditional media.
It's interesting, too, because you see these PR firms, and all of a sudden it'll be like, weird, every Democrat has the exact same talking point. How did that happen? Where did they get those talking points? And I think Elon hits the nail on the head. It's like, well, these PR firms are propaganda firms. And these PR firms are pushing out the talking points, and that's where they're getting them from. Alex Jones makes a good point. It kind of blew my mind a little bit. Once again, he gets you thinking, whether you like his opinions or not. He said you should think about, reporters switching from being journalists to working for PR firms the same way that we think about generals in war becoming defense contractors.
Elon, it's so glad you said that, because people don't understand that's how these work, and I'm just now learning about that. The PR firms are so powerful. They're full of intelligence agency former people. So just like a general will sign off on some bad weapon system, then he retires and gets on the major board of the defense contractor for $5 million a year. It's a revolving door. And so that's why when these big PR firms snap and say jump, the media says how high.
It's so fascinating to me once you start thinking about that. Because the talking points come down. Everybody echoes the same thing. We know intelligence networks are involved in media. We know that. Now, Hunter Biden was on a podcast with Moby, of all people. Moby. And this is one of the things that I want to play. I have some clips from the Hunter Biden Moby podcast. But first, I want to play a clip from Moby in 2018, quite literally saying that intelligence networks reached out to him to post conspiracy theories to get around the Hunter Biden laptop story.
I've managed to make a few friends in the intelligence community. And I guess it was about a year ago, we were having dinner, and they were really concerned, partially based on this, not to go too much in the weeds, but like this Fusion GPS report on Trump essentially being run as a Russian agent. And these are some active and former CIA agents who they're truly concerned. They were like, this is the Manchurian Candidate. Like, he have a Russian agent as the president of the United States. And so they passed on some information to me, and they said, like, look, you have more of a social media following than any of us do. Can you please post some of these things just in a way to sort of put it out there? But where there's smoke, there's fire.
So Moby's already admitting that he's in contact with intelligence agencies. Moby's already admitting that, back in the day, I had said the laptop story. It was the Fusion GPS story. My mistake. He's already admitted that intelligence agents reach out to him when they want to help control the narrative. And it kind of goes in line with what Alex Jones and Elon are saying about PR firms and how they control the narrative and how intelligence agencies are in bed crafting those narratives and creating those talking points. Moby admits that he had intelligence agents reach out to him to spread the Fusion GPS story, the same Fusion GPS stuff that was funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign. The same stuff that we find out years later was false. Completely false. And the thing I think is the craziest part is when the Trump-Russia stuff started, Republicans took a wait-and-see approach. Republicans were very, nobody jumped out right away and said, that's a lie. Said, I want to see more about this and see what the deal is. It's always the left that jumps out and says, that's a lie. It's always the left. But Moby admits that intelligence agents reach out to him to craft narrative and get in front of things. And then lo and behold, Hunter Biden is all of a sudden a guest on Moby's podcast over the weekend. Once again, it seems like these intelligence agencies are reaching out to Moby, of all people. Who listens to Moby? They reach out to Moby to craft narrative and help out with that. So Hunter Biden is on with Moby, and he immediately begins the spin and blaming Russia for his issues.
Which, by the way, this whole idea that this may not in every aspect be a Russian disinformation campaign, but it has literally every earmark of what the Russians did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's talking about his laptop story. Oh, it may not be plausible deniability, but it has every earmark Okay.
Yeah. There's what's it called? It's called eliminationist rhetoric. Eliminationist rhetoric was something that the Nazis came up with as a tool to undermine their political rivals. And then Putin has fine-tuned it. And what Putin did when he was coming to power in the early 2000s was there were still some real significant voices of some with real money and intellectual public standing inside of Russia or living as expatriates that were speaking out against Putin. So what did he do? He didn't argue with them on the merits. He didn't argue with them about economic policy and democracy and the freedom to vote because he knew he'd lose that argument. So what did he do? He labeled them pedophiles. He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers.
Does it feel like to you that he's trying to get in front of something that might be on his laptop or computer? Because that was my immediate thought. And he says, oh, what did Putin do? He labeled them pedophiles. And they're trying to insinuate that's what the Republicans are doing because we're all Russian actors, right? But again, Alex Jones gets banned, but a decade ago he's talking about Epstein Island. We know that this happens. We know Bill Clinton was on the island. So to me, when Hunter Biden says...
So what did he do? He labeled them pedophiles. He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers.
I feel like he's trying to get ahead of something.
And so maybe only 10% of the people then in the public would believe this. But then when he would turn around after he got 10, 15, 20% of the people believe in the worst thing you can possibly think about a human being, then when he turns around and said, and also he's a money launderer and he is against the Russian people. It's a lot easier for them to believe that.
Oh, so yes, we're all being duped. We're all being duped by what may or may not be on Hunter's laptop, and now they're after calling him all the names in the book, they're going after him for financial crimes because we've all been duped. Again, this is Hunter Biden on Moby's podcast. Moby admitted 5 years ago, 2018, that he was shilling for the deep state, that intelligence agents were asking him, and he was gleefully spreading the Fusion GPS story. Now he has Hunter Biden on. Are we supposed to just ignore the fact that Moby deals with intelligence agents? That Moby's in communication with intelligence agents? And that they're now crafting a new narrative? I don't know, man. It feels like to me that Hunter Biden's trying to get out in front of something. And while he's on with Moby, Hunter Biden also takes aim at Elon Musk.
And then you have the people that are the most culpable of all. You have the people that literally just love to feed it because they think that it is some kind of a game. Mm-hmm. They think that it is like the one thing about Elon Musk that I'm certain of is there's another very damaged human being.
Yes.
And I say that he is the dumbest smart person I think that the world has ever known.
To be fair, there are a lot of dumb smart people.
No, I know, but he now represents
I would say Rupert Murdoch is upset. They're.
But you know what? It's like Elon Musk doesn't care about the First Amendment.
Sir, it was your father's White House that was asking the social media companies to censor posts when it was around COVID. It was your father's intelligence friends that were censoring the laptop story. Elon Musk is restoring free speech on Twitter.
Elon Musk doesn't care about the First Amendment. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And so
says the crackhead who spends money on hookers and blow.
All of this idea that he's a champion for the First Amendment and blah, 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 blah. Elon Musk doesn't care about democracy. Elon Musk doesn't care about our freedom to vote. He doesn't care about that.
Says the guy whose dad basically stole an election via big tech and the media.
Is there any time that you ever saw anything from him that has any rational defense of democracy, of what we've created here as Americans, as his adopted country?
Yes, actually, when he lets the people on his platform vote whether or not to reinstate Alex Jones. That seems very democratic.
I turn on ABC Face Nation this morning and they're talking about, well, Hunter Biden's plea deal and this, that, and the other thing, and who knows what happens with James Comer, and they may find. Are you kidding me? I mean, I really just okay, we're going to talk about Ukraine again? Yep. Really? Yep. Really?
Yeah, really. I think this story needs to get resolved. I do. And what a perfect day for it. Zelensky He's hanging around town. We'll talk about that. Hang out with us. It's 10:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We're learning more about the victims of the deadly weekend tornado outbreak, new developments in the U.S. Air Force leaked documents case, and former President Trump is surging. So are the attacks by his critics. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 10:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Got a text here from 4295 said, "Oh, Hunter Biden just going after the most successful immigrant American anyone has ever seen. I thought the Democrats loved immigrants." He was talking about this clip from the Moby interview. Oh.
Elon Musk doesn't care about the First Amendment. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And so all of this idea that he's a champion for the First Amendment and blah, 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 blah. Elon Musk doesn't care about democracy. Elon Musk doesn't care about our freedom to vote. He doesn't care about that.
Yeah, well, neither does your father. Weird. It's 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in Tennessee, we're learning more about the victims of the deadly weekend tornado outbreak. Among the dead, 10-year-old Alan Burnham. He was trapped under the collapse of his two-story home in Clarksville. A neighbor was able to get 2 other children out, but 10-year-old Alan died. More than 50 people in Clarksville were hospitalized for treatment of injuries from the tornado. And Governor Bill Lee describes his firsthand look at the destruction during a tour yesterday.
The Salvation Army was standing at the top of the street. There are churches lined up across this state that are already pouring resources and help.
Lee says the process of pulling in federal resources is underway. One of the fastest ways to get help if you need it is by dialing 211. New developments in the U.S. Air Force leaked documents case. 15 service members have been removed from their positions for failing to make proper action when they learned Massachusetts Air National Guardsman Jack Teixeira allegedly siphoned defense secrets from military computers and posted them on Discord. The Air Force concluded none of the airmen was aware of what Teixeira was allegedly doing at the time, but faulted members of his unit at Otis Air National Guard Base for failing to conduct adequate inspections, ineffectively administering discipline, and improperly supervising the night shift. The Air Force review is separate from the criminal charges to which Teixeira has pleaded not guilty. And election 2024, former President Trump surging in the polls. So are the attacks on him. Here's Jonathan Karl.
As Trump builds his campaign around calls for retribution and revenge, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney is calling him a threat to American democracy who must be stopped.
There's a lot that has to be done to begin to rebuild the Republican Party, potentially to build a new conservative party. But in my view, that has to wait until after the 2024 election because our focus has got to be on defeating Donald Trump.
President Biden has also seized on Trump's comments for his campaign, telling a group of supporters over the weekend, quote, the greatest threat Trump poses is to the country's democracy.
Well, CNN says its latest poll shows Trump has the upper hand over President Biden in 2 critical battleground states, Michigan and Georgia. And a new Iowa poll shows Trump has surpassed 50% ahead of the first primary. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah, all right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through, was that January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting, info, and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bark Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1105. I got a text here from 9058. Talk about the Hunter Biden Moby audio. OMG. He just sounds like a fool. And WTF is Moby. LMAO. He has like 2K listeners.
Ouch.
And if Musk doesn't care about voting, why has he had four? Why has he had four to bring people back? LMFAO. What a dumb A. And this is the smartest person Joe knows. Wow. The wow was in all caps. Thank you for the text, 9058. Unbelievable. Hunter is, I don't know. Why would you go on a podcast? Like, isn't that like a bad idea when you're under indictment and all that?
Yeah. And what are you doing, man?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
He's gonna have one PR person be like, yo, don't do that. Don't do that.
Probably not a good look, bro. Like, it's hard. It's hard when you're on a crack binge. Nobody's gonna tell him no. You know what I mean? Like, they're more worried about him slowing the car down from 172 miles per hour in a residential neighborhood than they are about him going on a podcast. Like, all right, fine, you can do the podcast,
right, fine.
but please go the speed limit. 0322. Hunter Biden might as well go into politics. He's a crook. He lies. He steals. He would make a good Democrat. Well, I think he is a Democrat. I think he votes. Yeah, I think he votes Dem, and he's certainly good at blaming Russia for all of his problems. This is Hunter talking about the fact that it might not be a Russian plot, but it has all the earmarks of Russia. What's going on with him?
Which, by the way, this whole idea that this may not in every aspect be a Russian disinformation campaign, but it has literally every earmark of what the Russians did. Yeah. There's, what's it called? It's called eliminationist rhetoric.
Now, what he goes on to describe sounds like what they do to, conservatives.
Eliminationist rhetoric was something that the Nazis came up with as a tool to undermine their political rivals. And then Putin has fine-tuned it. And what Putin did when he was coming to power in the early 2000s was there were still some real significant voices of some with real money and intellectual public standing inside of Russia or living as expatriates that were speaking out against Putin. So what did he do? He didn't argue with them on the merits. He didn't argue with them about economic policy and democracy and the freedom to vote because he knew he'd lose that argument. So what did he do? He labeled them pedophiles.
Is he gaslighting us like people don't know about Epstein Island? Is that what's going on? I feel like I'm being gaslit.
He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers.
Is he getting in front of something that might be on his laptop? Because I feel like that's what he's doing. Right? Doesn't that, like, what a weird thing to bring up?
He planted child pornography on their laptops and their computers.
Yeah, totally. If you find any of that on my laptop, it was planted by Russia. Just a FYI.
And so maybe only 10% of the people then in the public would believe this. But then when he would turn around after he got 10, 15, 20% of the people believing the worst thing you can possibly think about a human being, and then when he turns around and said, and also he's a money launderer and he is against the Russian people. It's a lot easier for them to believe that.
I think it's pretty easy for us to believe that Democrats can do both. They can visit Epstein Island and launder money. They can walk and chew gum, if you will. Weird. Now, meanwhile, Zelensky is in D.C. today asking for more money. Apparently he's going to be meeting with Mike Johnson. Why? Post Millennial reports that Mike Johnson is going to be having a sit down with Zelensky as this debate intensifies over sending U.S. aid to Ukraine. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson set to meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky on Tuesday while he was in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Biden about the stalled aid package for his country. I would just say, yeah, I'm going to pass on that meeting. I'm going to pass. Matt Gaetz tweeted out, America has sent enough money to Ukraine. We should tell Zelensky to seek peace. Amen. Can we just end the war? I mean, there's so many good Ukrainian men are dying over there. Like, can we start talking peace? I think that's the move. Like, enough of these forever wars. We have enough going on. Meanwhile, we also have Democrats whining about the fact that, these MAGA extremists are tying border funding to Israel and Ukraine. And everybody's all up in arms about it. All up in arms. Listen, this is, what do we got here? Dan Goldman. Nope, sorry, not Dan Goldman. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy. Dan Goldman was talking about Hunter Biden charges. I'll get to that in a minute. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy was claiming that if Republicans don't give up the push for border security, that Russia is going to march into Ukraine. This is Democrat Senator Chris Murphy, who's out of Connecticut. And it's so wild to me because this guy, he's just insane. He's insane.
Republicans would argue, many of them, they're not calling to completely shut down the border, but as you say, to make it tougher to get through. If you look at the poll numbers, the latest Wall Street Journal poll shows a whopping 64% of people disapprove of President Biden's handling of the border. Does that add pressure on Democrats to get something done here?
Well, listen, I'm not paying attention to the politics here. What I know is that
that's his first lie. I'm not paying attention to the politics here.
Future of the world is at stake. If we fail, if Republicans don't get reasonable in the next 24 to 48 hours, Russia is going to march into Ukraine. China is going to be given a green light to invade Taiwan. The world for my children is fundamentally different under that scenario. The United States' security is at risk.
So the world for his children is fundamentally different if China goes into Taiwan or if Russia marches into Ukraine. Bud, wake up. The world is fundamentally different if we leave our border wide open. This drives me absolutely nuts. Oh, in the next 24 to 48 hours, if Republicans don't get serious about what? You're selling us on national security. How can we debate national security with our border wide open? Is there anything more apparent to conservatives and just Americans that are paying attention that our border is wide open? And that is our biggest national security threat. I'm sorry. China going into Taiwan isn't our biggest security threat. Our biggest security threat is that known terror watch list suspects are coming across the southern border. That's the biggest security threat. But Democrat Senator Chris Murphy, he doesn't think so. In fact, he thinks that Republicans wanting to secure the southern border is actually a very dangerous moment in American politics.
I think this is one of the most dangerous moments that I've ever faced in American politics, and I wish Republicans weren't holding Israel aid and aid to Ukraine hostage to the resolution of immigration reform.
Oh, immigration reform. I thought he said he wasn't doing the politics. Here's the other thing about Democrats. They'll ask for more money for the border, but they're taking the medical industrial complex stance where they want to address the symptoms. They want to speed up processing. You know, it's actually come out that they're releasing 5,000 illegal aliens into the U.S. a day. So they want to speed that up. Those are rookie numbers. They want to get those numbers up. And when they ask for more funding, it's not to secure the wall. It's to actually just speed up the process to get more illegals here. They're addressing the symptoms, not the root cause. And the root cause is the open, porous border. It's insane. The border is a mess. The border's a mess. And when you look at what's happening, you know, for a while, Texas was ground zero for the border. Arizona right now is slowly turning into ground zero for the border crisis. And, you know, I think it's worth pointing out that it was the U.S. government that ordered Arizona to remove, they were building a border wall with shipping containers, and it was the U.S. government that ordered Arizona to remove their border wall with shipping containers. And that was back in October of 22. So they order Arizona to remove these border shipping containers. That's becoming the new epicenter of the border crisis. It's getting so bad. Even guys on the border, like even, you know, Mockingbird Media, like CBS, has to cover the border, though they do cover it with more than a hint of leftist spin.
Every day last week, hundreds of migrants gathered to turn themselves over to border agents at the Lukeville crossing in Arizona, near a port of entry that was officially closed Monday due to the massive number of arrivals.
It's daybreak, and so after a long, cold night of sleeping around campfires, trying to sleep around campfires, the processing may begin momentarily.
This mother of four tells us she's escaping the violence of Mexican cartels.
Now, here's where the leftist spin comes in, and I feel for this mother trying to escape the violence of Mexican cartels. I do. But this is the emotional manipulation that Mockingbird Media employs on the populace that isn't paying attention.
Escaping the violence of Mexican cartels.
I'm fighting as much as I can so my children can have something better.
So that's what they say. Meanwhile, this woman who snuck in illegally, like, I'm sorry that there may be stories of this, and I feel for you, but that's not the American citizen's problem. That's your problem with the Mexican government. It's the Mexican government that lets the cartels do what they do. And for every story that you hear like that, you hear a story like this. A suspect in the murder of a 16-year-old Texas cheerleader is an illegal immigrant. On Sunday, police in Edna, Texas announced they had arrested a suspected illegal alien who was accused of murdering 16-year-old cheerleader Lisbeth Medina on Tuesday. You're not going to hear CBS News cover this. In a press release reported by the Daily Mail, Chief of Police Rick Boone said, "With countless hours put into this investigation, we were able to locate an undocumented male subject identified as Rafael Govea Romero in the city of Schulenburg. Edna Police Department and Texas Rangers immediately traveled to Schulenburg, where Romero was placed under arrest for capital murder and transported to Jackson County Jail." So they'll try to emotionally manipulate you with this poor mother and her children trying to escape cartel violence. And I feel for her. I do. But CBS News is not going to cover the fact that a suspect in the murder of a 16-year-old American Texas cheerleader, the suspect is an illegal alien. CBS News won't cover that. No, they'll just continue to emotionally manipulate you into leaving the border wide open.
This is one of the border's most remote stretches, now one of the busiest. In the last year, there's been a 140% spike in migrant apprehensions in this area. Our cameras captured the moment smugglers helped dozens of people cross illegally.
And there the smugglers go.
CBS is down at the border in Arizona. They see this happening in real time. And they say, oh, it's gotten worse over the past year. Oh, gee whiz. Again, October 22. October of 2022, the U.S. government said that Arizona has to remove the shipping container border wall. How could this have gotten so much worse in the past year? If only we could figure out what the cause is. Maybe it's that the U.S. government is making sure that Arizona can't defend its own border. Just like the U.S. government is making sure that Texas can't defend its own border when they order the razor wire buoys out of the Rio Grande, when they lift up the razor wire with a forklift so that way illegal aliens can cross underneath. It's the craziest thing. Mac often says that, the Chiefs have to play another team and the refs. It seems like we're dealing with the same thing down the southern border. Whether you're Mexico or you're Arizona, you're not only dealing with the illegal aliens, you're dealing with the U.S. government at the same time.
It's not a fair fight.
It's not a fair fight. You like how I worked that in there for you?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's been a while since I roasted you, so I wanted to also break it down in a way that we could both, understand.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
It's like it's not a fair fight. It's a handicap match.
This is the breach in the wall that the smugglers have cut through, and this is what the Border Patrol is up against. And this is not an anomaly by any means. Here's another one, Rod, that was just cut and repaired today.
So now he's showing portions of the border wall that was, constructed by the Trump administration that's sliced. And, you see those pillars, that portion of the border wall. I think if there's anything we can learn is that it's too easy to get through. We need a tougher wall. We need a bigger wall. We need a better wall.
Agents are really sort of playing a game of whack-a-mole. They see a breach, they respond to it, they try to seal it up, and then somewhere else along this very long corridor of the wall, another breach occurs. And this is all by design. The smugglers realize that this particular area is vulnerable.
That's where me and CBS News agree. It is all by design. However, I think it's by design by our own government, unfortunately. As sad as this may be, I think it's by design by our own government. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hang out with us. We got more on the way on the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk.
All right, got a traffic situation in Robertson County. It's a crash blocking the intersection at Highway 431 at Roy Holman Road. Also in Sumner County, you got a crash blocking the left lane, Vietnam Veterans Boulevard westbound, right before Gallatin Pike. We're learning more about the victims of the tornado outbreak, new developments in the U.S. Air Force leaked documents case, and former President Trump surging in the polls. These stories and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Our hearts and our prayers go out to everybody, rebuilding and dealing with loss from those tornadoes. If you want to find out how you can help, please hop on our website, 997WTN.com. There's a link there for you. You can figure out how to get involved. All hands on deck in these situations, and I know that our listeners are the best. And when we need you guys to step up, you do time and time again. So we ask you one more time, please, if you want to get involved, 997WTN.com. There's also links on our Facebook page as well as our Twitter page. So join us in supporting those that have been affected by these tornadoes. We really do appreciate you guys jumping in. As we've seen, it's just tons of devastation across Middle Tennessee. And again, I just want to commend Matt Murphy, Ken Weaver for being on the air on Saturday. I thought what they did was huge. And, at a certain point, I was helping a little bit, but those guys were doing the heavy lifting. And at a certain point, I turned into a listener when, there was the siren started going off in Murfreesboro, and I had my radio cranked up like so many others. And I waited till Murphy gave us the all clear before we let the kids out of the safe space and, head on back up to bed. But it was stressful, to say the least. And I know some people lost a lot. And my thoughts and prayers go out to them 2 weeks before Christmas. I can't imagine what some of these people are going through. So if you want to get involved, 997WTN.com or over on our Facebook page, 997WTN. Find the links there. As we continue, I do want to keep talking about, the border. I was playing some audio from CBS News, and it's like they're finally covering it, though they cover it with such a leftist spin, and it blows my mind. Because during the whole report, they say, "Oh, there's a woman here who's escaping cartel violence with her kids, trying to give them a better life." I feel for you. I feel for you. It's still not America's job. I totally get wanting a better life for your kids, and I feel for that. But what about American kids? They don't cover in the CBS News report the suspect in the murder of a 16-year-old Texas girl is an illegal alien. They don't cover in the CBS News report that 5,000 illegal aliens, are released into the U.S. daily. That's from a new report the Biden administration has they had to privately tell Congress that. They don't even want that news out there. They privately told Congress that they're releasing an average of 5,000 illegal aliens daily into the U.S. Daily. And those are the ones that are caught. They always give these numbers of plus, 670,000 more evaded Border Patrol. Well, if they evaded them, how do we know the total number? I can only imagine that the total number is much, much higher. Fox News has a report that exposed the Department of Homeland Security officials told the Arizona congressional delegation, the House and Senate Judiciary Committees, and the House and Senate Homeland Security Committees that there were approximately 670,000 known gotaways at the border in fiscal year 2023. Sources told the outlet that the group of lawmakers were also told about 5,000 illegals are released into the country every day to NGOs, non-governmental organizations that assist with them getting to their destinations. Or their destination should be home. It shouldn't be more into the interior of the U.S. In that CBS News report, they say, "Oh, how could this be getting so much worse over the past year?" And I pointed out, well, it was the U.S. government that told Arizona in October of 2022 that they have to take down their shipping container border wall. They were using a makeshift shipping container border wall, recycling shipping containers, stacking them too high, and making a border wall with that. The U.S. government said, "How could you take those down?" That was the U.S. government response to that. And now they go, "We don't know how Arizona could become the epicenter for this invasion at our southern border, because that's what it is. It's an invasion. So I'm sorry if I sound cold or heartless when I hear this CBS News report about a mother trying to escape cartel violence. It's not our problem. I mean, just to be as cold as I can be. And you know what? If the border was under control, if the border was secure, I'd have no problem allowing this woman in as an asylum seeker. I get it. But until that is fixed, until we get this border under control, it's just a hard pass for everybody. I'm sorry. 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, we've learned the name of another one of the victims of the deadly tornado outbreak. 10-year-old Alan Burnham was killed when his family's two-story home collapsed in Clarksville. Meanwhile, Governor Bill Lee has toured the damaged areas to assess the need.
It's sobering. What we have witnessed today across the state of Tennessee, really sad, really heartbreaking.
Lee says the process of getting federal resources to help with recovery is underway. New developments in the U.S. Air Force leaked documents case. The Air Force announcing 15 airmen will lose the ability to get promoted for not doing anything to prevent or stop Jack Teixeira from accessing some of the country's most sensitive secrets and then putting him online. In election 2024, former President Donald Trump has the upper hand over President Biden in two critical battleground states, Michigan and Georgia, according to new CNN polls. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now, what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friend Jan Whitfield and Dental Plans with Jan. You know what Jan Whitfield always says? She says, you're never fully dressed without a smile. That might be Annie. I'm going to go with Jan for right now. Listen, if you own a small business, there's nothing that will make your employees feel valued and appreciated more than dental and vision plans. It's a small way to say thank you to your employees. Plus, in this time of employee retention and having that be an issue for so many small businesses, I talk to small business owners all the time. It's an issue retaining employees, great employees long term. This is a great way to retain your employees if you own a small business, offering them dental and vision plans. Plus, these dental and vision plans are affordable, they're easy, and they're reputable dental plans. They're some of the most popular in Middle Tennessee. It's a win-win for you, the employer, and your employees. Now, your employees will be eligible for full benefits the day they enroll, and get this, no enrollment fee. Plus, they're totally affordable, priced at around $27 to $39 per month, depending on what benefits you're looking for and how many employees are enrolled. Plus, you can add spouses, you can add dependents if the group is more than 10 people, and they have orthodontics available. Take it from a guy who has a daughter about to get braces. Orthodontics are expensive. This is a good deal. So if you own a small business, if you own a salon, if you're a landscaper, maybe you own a daycare or a moving company, and you have a couple employees that want some dental and vision benefits, this is the way to go. Call my friend Jan Whitfield at 615-974-9655. That's 615-974-9655. Online at dentalplanswithjan.com.
Make America great again. How powerful is that? MAGA. MAGA. I tell that to Biden. I say, Joe, when he gets up, we've got to stop the MAGA extremists. Yeah, I'm extreme about making America great again, right? We're extreme.
Well, we got to stop the MAGA extremists. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 1137. Hope you're having a fantastic day. You heard Ken Weaver in the newscast talking about new CNN polling showing that Donald Trump is leading Joe Biden in Michigan and in Georgia. Let's hear it from the horse's mouth, CNN. They're very upset about this.
5 a.m. here in Washington, where we have new CNN poll numbers this morning in two critical battleground states. The news is not great for President Biden and his campaign. The numbers show Donald Trump leading in both Georgia and Michigan.
She said the news is not great. The news is not great.
Not going well.
This is not what we wanted.
Morning in two critical battleground states. The news is not great for President Biden and his campaign. The numbers show Donald Trump leading in both Georgia and Michigan. In Georgia, a state Biden carried by a very narrow margin in 2020. Registered voters say they prefer Trump over Biden by 5%.
Weird.
In Michigan, which Trump won in 2016, but Biden carried in 2020, our poll now showing Trump 10 points up. Note that a full 10% of those polled in each state say that they wouldn't support either candidate. Trump's margin over Biden is significantly boosted in both states by people who say they did not vote in 2020. These less engaged voters favored Trump by 26 points in Georgia and 40 points in Michigan.
Well, everybody's kind of seeing the result of Joe Biden's policies. They're feeling the result of Joe Biden's policies. And you hear the CNN anchor get a little choked up in there discussing these numbers. This is a good sign. This is a good sign. I got another good sign here. Charlemagne, this guy is from Power 105. He hosts the Breakfast Club on a hip-hop station. And it just goes to show that Joe Biden is losing support so fast in so many different areas. So he's losing in swing states, and we know he's losing support from African-American voters. And Charlemagne the God, this guy, that's his radio tag. He's a hip-hop DJ on the most popular hip-hop morning show in New York City. He's the guy that Joe Biden said, well, if you have a problem voting for me or Trump, then you ain't black. This is who he spoke to. He held water for him in 2020, and he's not holding water for him anymore.
Please, Mr. President, give America the ultimate Christmas gift and step aside.
I think he's echoing what a lot of Democrats are feeling. Please, step aside, Mr. President. And on the flip side, Republicans, we're pretty cool. We're sitting pretty with Trump. We're like, all right, let's go. J.D. Vance was on with CNN and Jake Tapper and said basically just that. Like, nah, we're good. We like him.
Do you really have no concerns that Donald Trump might try to abuse his power if reelected?
No, Jake, I don't. Look, the guy was president for 4 years. We had peace, we had prosperity, we had wages rising faster than inflation. Joe Biden has been president for 3 years. Now the average Ohio family pays $10,000 more to afford the same standard of living. The idea that Trump is going to be radically different than what he was 4 years ago is just preposterous. He was an effective, successful president. I think he will be an effective, successful president again. That's why I've endorsed him. And I think this desire to make the election all about the past is indicative of the fact the Democrats don't have much to run on. I think Republicans do.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you're running on your record, Joe Biden doesn't have the benefit of not having a record anymore. You know, in 2020, he didn't have a record to run on. Now he does. So let's compare with how Democrats feel about Joe Biden right here.
Please, Mr. President, give America the ultimate Christmas gift and step aside.
That's how Democrats feel. And how do Republicans feel?
The idea that Trump is going to be radically different than what he was 4 years ago is just preposterous. He was an effective, successful president.
I mean, and the polling shows that. The polling shows that time and time again. It's like, and Democrats are shocked by this. They are. Democrats can't believe. But there is one Republican who seems to be in favor more of Democrats than Republicans. Our former Speaker of the House.
And when I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America.
That was Kevin McCarthy, and this is the same guy that people are like, we have to let him stay Speaker. Listen to how he talks about his own party.
And when I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club in America.
Yeah, you know, this guy's terrible. Kevin McCarthy also, over the weekend, endorsed Trump for president and said he would be willing to serve in his cabinet. I think one of the problems that Trump had in his last administration was that he had too many rhinos in his cabinet. Let me ask you, would you want this guy serving in Trump's cabinet in 2024?
And when I look at the Democrats, they actually look like America. When I look at my party, we look like the most restrictive country club.
Yeah, hard pass. Hard pass. But McCarthy was on CBS's Sunday Morning, and he said, can Trump count on your support? McCarthy said, yes. Costa said, is that an endorsement? He said, I will support the president. I will support President Trump. Costa said, would you be willing to serve in a Trump cabinet? McCarthy says, in the right position. Like, no, I don't want you anywhere near Trump's cabinet. Sounds like the worst idea. You don't like your own party, sir. You're not the guy for the job. You're just not. Now, in the meantime, Trump warns Biden to be very careful. He says his politicized indictments have opened up a Pandora's box. This was Trump over the weekend at the New York Young Republican Gala. Trump said that Trump warned President Joe Biden that he opened up Pandora's box when he indicted him. In the speech, Trump said, for 4 straight years, our opponents have been waging an all-out war on American democracy. They rigged and stole the election of 2020, and since Biden has gotten in, he is weaponizing the government against his political opponents like a raging third world tyrant. He adds, he's opened up Pandora's box that will never let our country be the same. The former president added, I can only say to Joe, be very careful what you wish for. What you have done is a terrible thing. Trump told the crowd, I'm being indicted for you. These are not the indictments in the traditional sense. These are Biden indictments against their political opponent. I think he's absolutely right. And I think that there's a lot more to stand on when it comes to the Bidens. I mean, if you listen to Hunter Biden with Moby, he'll tell you it's all Russian disinformation and how could this be brought up again? I can't believe it. But when you listen to the American people, when you look at the polling numbers, everybody knows that this is political. Everybody knows that they're going after Trump for political reasons. It feels like a banana republic. And Comer's on record talking with Jake Tapper now on Friday's CNN The Lead with Jake Tapper. Comer saying what I said before about Hunter's latest indictments, that Hunter was indicted by federal prosecutor David Weiss to protect Joe Biden. Comer said what he got charged with that indictment last night, that had nothing to do with all the so-called loans that the Bidens have taken. We've identified, it appears, with the president's son and brother, over $14 million in loans, where it doesn't look like they have made any payments on principal or interest. At what point do those loans, if you're not going to pay them back, become income? Comer added, so we think this is just the tip of the iceberg. We think there's many more crimes. And my concern is that Weiss may have indicted Hunter Biden to protect him from having to be deposed in the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday. That was my initial reaction to the indictment as well, because he can step aside and say, hey, you know, I plead the fifth. I don't want to incriminate myself. Byron Donalds was asked about that on Maria Bartiromo's show. Here's what he had to say.
Well, your committee chairman, James Comer, as well as Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, say that they will hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress if he does not deliver and come through on Thursday for that closed-door testimony. What does that mean exactly, contempt of Congress? So is he really going to be afraid of that?
Well, first of all, that is absolutely what should happen. He should be held in contempt if he ignores a congressional subpoena. That's number one. Number two, look, this guy, Hunter Biden, he thinks nothing can touch him because his daddy's been protecting him for years right now. What we understand right now, Maria, is that if it wasn't for a federal judge actually looking at the first plea deal that David Weiss put together when he wasn't a special counsel, by the way, that plea deal was a joke. They were going to hide all these tax charges under this gun charge, which, by the way, didn't even follow through with what it needed to do. They were going to hide the FARA violations under the gun charge. And so the only reason this is coming forward is because of House Republicans continuing this investigation. If Hunter Biden thinks he's going to run and hide now because his last name is Biden and his daddy is president, he's got another thing coming.
I like it. And under that original plea deal, they were going to give him immunity for all of this stuff. Weird. Also, the Daily Mail has a story that Hunter was complaining to his uncle James Biden that all his money was gone and he couldn't afford his ex-wife's alimony at the same time while he was blowing lavish sums of money on cocaine and hookers, basically. I was trying to find a better way to say that, but I don't know. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. This is from Daily Mail, the 9-count grand jury indictment on tax charges that prosecutors brought against Hunter Biden catalogs not just his stunning spending spree, but times he pleaded poverty when refusing to pay alimony to write a timely check to the IRS. He made similar claims to his Uncle James in 2018, according to documents revealed by IRS whistleblowers, but his online claims to be down on his luck were sometimes contradicted by financial statements, which revealed lavish cars, seaside homes, ATM withdrawals, porn purchases, and all while the president's son was battling addiction. He was taking out a lot of money. A lot of money. He wrote James Biden on December 29, 2018 about his financial struggles, alluding to his efforts to obtain support from his father while feeling a cash crunch. He said, I can work when I'm in NYC all day, every day for the next 3 months from 8 to 12, but I can't pay alimony without dad or tuitions or for food and gas. I just need some gas money, bro. He said, really, it's all gone. I can make it up in 15 to 20 days, I'm sure. But he's basically made it clear that he's not paying alimony because mom made clear that she won't do it. Poor Hunter. Poor Hunter. And Joe, I think we can all agree the only thing he's guilty of is loving his son too much. It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're going to check in with Matt Murphy next. Hang out with us on Super Talk.
Bills make me wanna kick your heels up and throw your hands up and throw your head back and come on now. The Bills are making it happen now.
I had to play it one more time for you, Mac.
Refs are making it.
Shout it right now, baby.
It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's over the line, Chris. It's over the line.
Oh,
See
that's
what I
very
did there?
funny. That's very funny. Yeah.
See what I did there? It's over the line.
I didn't watch the game.
You're all suckers, buddy.
Chris has no idea that this
Yeah, he doesn't
viral
know.
debate's happening on NFL Twitter right now over
He
this
doesn't
game.
understand. I mean, I would do that with you, but I don't want to bore anybody. But
It's okay. We'll do it off the air.
I completely went from I'm kind of siding with McMurray because I like him in this big debate that's going on about this game to I did a little research and I popped my head in during your show. I was like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah, you said you're whining.
Bills make me wanna.
Woo! Yeah.
The people want anti-Chief songs.
Let me. Can I peel? Hey, Chris.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Did we do that?
Mm-hmm. You
right.
just did.
Perfect.
For those of you that feel a little bit badly for Cougar Chow because Chris Hand is picking on him because his beloved Chiefs lost to the Buffalo Bills last night, I want to relate to you something that I saw that happened in the office hallway earlier today.
The Bills make me wanna.
It's no go pack, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
The Midwest Polka was pretty solid.
Isn't like that the first time that Patrick Mahomes has lost back-to-back games in the history of ever?
It's only the fourth time, actually. Yeah, he's 18-4 after a loss, so the fourth time. Yep. All right.
Bills make me wanna.
I think this was pretty good because it works both ways. It
So
works for
Mac
Chiefs
Maury has
fans,
this.
too.
He has this nice persona on air, and everybody loves him, and he's a kind, genteel
Thank you.
soul.
Appreciate it.
And I just want you to know that he has a dark side because I saw it. We were standing in the hallway talking amongst ourselves, and a coworker with a Titans jersey, Titans play tonight on Monday Night Football, coworker comes down the hall, and Mac Maury did this. This is what he did. He said, oh, this is what you did. He goes, oh, you guys got a knowing what the Tennessee Titans record is.
Yep.
No, he goes, oh, you guys got a really big game tonight. Good luck. And I'm like, what are you doing?
The Bills make me wanna.
Yeah,
Go Pack.
that was me taking out my anger. You're right.
Very passive aggressive.
Yeah, it was. It
So
was.
I told Mac at the end of the season, right before we get into the playoffs, we're going to have a power ranking of the songs that we've played for him. And we're like I don't want to steal you guys' bit when you do the drafts.
No,
I think the
that's
drafts
good,
are
but
great. But I think, or maybe you guys do it. You can draft the best.
There might be too many by the end of the season. There may be too many songs.
Bills make me wanna.
Mahomes might have to play a road game this
This
postseason.
playoffs. Yeah. It's this is the last game we'll lose in the regular season. You can book it.
Bills make me wanna.
Who you going to beat? Who else you got?
We got 4 backup quarterbacks. If we lose a game in this regular season, I will combust.
Can you tell me what teams they are? That way I can prep for some songs.
Start doing some research.
So just to show you, I mean, this is why we love, and what I said after the Bulldogs lost to the Alabama Crimson Tide is true. The reason that you emotionally get involved in this stuff is because it hurt. I mean, it's the same thing that makes it hurt when you lose. But he's hurting so much. I mean, I thought he was sick.
He looked it.
He looked. I said, "Are you okay?" I'm fine, stupid red. Oh, son.
Poor kid.
It's all right.
Poor guy.
Fine.
Feel bad for him.
Hey, we've got some storm update for you later on. We've got Jamie Clary, who is the mayor of Hendersonville, who will be on at 12:35. And just real quick, Freddie O'Connell at 105.
All right, hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Bills make me wanna.